Hello there. Today, we're going to have a look at how I paint the wings on my custom Hive Fleet Tyranid scheme. Hello everyone, welcome to the video. This is going to be a short and sweet one, so I'll just do a quick intro and then we'll jump into it. Basically, I made a video over a year ago now, and I'll try and link it somewhere here if you haven't seen it, so go check it out. And because if you are going to follow this, you will need to watch that first, because I'm only going to be painting the wing membranes today on the Tyranid Gargoyles, so if you want to know how to paint the rest of them, I have a video for that. So, about 2 months ago, I think it was now, which has taken me this long to get around to doing it. I've had this plan since I read the comment. But again, life, work, all that stuff gets annoying, doesn't it? Basically, someone left me a comment asking how to paint the wing membranes for this scheme after watching the other video. And first off, I just want to say thank you for the comment, because it has prompted me and motivated me to get back into painting these Tyranids again. So when I read the comment, I actually had no idea, because since doing that original video, I've barely touched them. I got so excited when all the new models released. I got them all ready and prepped and prepared, came up with a scheme, painted a few, and then got distracted by lots of other projects and things, as I'm sure all of you do. But I think I did manage to finish a Hive Tyrant, the Screamer Killer, and maybe some other gaunts here and there, some Gene Stealers. But not much, not enough anyway, not what I had planned. So it was nice to jump back into this. So again, just want to say thank you for motivating me to get back on this. With that being said, because I had no idea, I jumped back in to have a look what I could do. And I have come up with this. And I've also come up with this. So I've come up with two versions. Again, like the original video, I keep addressing. I can't make up my mind when it comes to stuff like this. So I've given you two options, and for me, I think I'm just going to run with both, although I think I am leaning more towards the blue greyish one, but we'll go through it and you can decide for yourself at the end. Anyway, the paints you're going to need for this are all GW paints to keep it easy for you. So the first method of the sort of regular grey is just going to be the contrast paint, Basilicanum Grey, or Basilicanum Grey contrast paint. The next one you'll need is Eshin Grey, followed by Dawnstone, and then we'll need Administratum Grey. For the second method then, you're going to want to grab yourself the Fang, followed by some Nuln Oil. Then you're going to want to grab yourself Rust Grey, and lastly we'll be using Fenrisian Grey. Okay then, jumping into the method itself. Now this can be done at any point of the model. I personally am choosing to do it as one of the last few things that I do, but again, you can use this whenever you want. It's up to you guys. But the first thing you're going to want to do is grab your contrast and just cover all the membranes in that contrast paint. A little tip that I've actually found useful for myself, I don't know if anybody else will, but I tend to get it on my brush, the contrast paint, and then kind of just poke the tip of the brush right into the corner of the wing, as you can see, and then just slightly drag it down the membrane, if that makes sense. So get your brush loaded up, get it right, well then not loaded up, not too much, don't go crazy with it. This is just darkening down the model, so don't have loads of it pooling on. But get enough to cover the wing. Just put the tip into the corner of the wing where the membrane meets sort of the arm again, and then kind of just drag the paint down the flat surfaces, and then come back to it and try and catch any pooling that might be happening on the edge of the wing. Once that's dry, you want to grab a small dry brush and get your Eshin Grey, and then all you're going to do is put very subtle dry brush all over the wing membranes, trying to keep it mostly in the middle so you can keep that grey contrast along the edges, just in between the what do you even call them, the bits in between each membrane, the arms, the wing bits. Oh, actually, yeah, can somebody let me know what they're called, because I don't actually know now I think about it, but you know which bits I mean. you want to try and keep the contrast down the edges there to give it a bit more depth. Now, it might not look like you're doing much at this point. The Eshin Grey is very subtle, but believe me, if you get a little bit on there, it definitely helps and just adds to the effect. And don't worry too much if you happen to get the paint onto any of the arm parts, because it is a very small area we're dry brushing at the moment. So there is a chance you will get it and it might hit other parts of the model. We can tidy this all up later, so just focus on getting the membranes done, and then when we get to the end we can come back and we can tidy up and have a little tidy up phase, because there's a chance also we might have to put a bit more of the wash on because you might accidentally get it into the cracks and crannies, but it's not the end of the world. Like I say, there's always a tidy up stage. Anyway, after that, grab your Dawnstone. Now, I will point out actually for this, you might not need to wash your brush. If you haven't got much grey on it at all, I wouldn't recommend washing it, because if you get a wet dry brush, it might ruin the effect. We want the kind of dryish, not so much chalky, but sometimes I find with a slightly wet dry brush, if you've just washed the colour off of it, it doesn't go on as well. So it's all up to you guys though. This is how I was doing it anyway. I'm just saying, by all means, go ahead and go for how you want. I'm just here telling you the colours really. For this bit then, go mostly in the centre of the wings and just get a nice sort of light coating on it just to brighten it up a little bit. And you can apply a little bit underneath the wings if you feel the need to. You don't have to, because if the wings are kind of drooped over and down and you won't see them, it's not completely necessary. But for peace of mind, if you want to put a little bit on there as well, you can do. I'm not going to recommend it for the final stage. We'll leave that a bit darker underneath. Which, speaking of, jump into the final bit then. So, grab the Administratum Grey. Oh, got it. There we go. And same again, but you want to apply it to the edges. So this mostly is going to be used on the edges, and you just want to drag your dry brush up and down on the very edges of the wings. You can apply a very hint of it on the most raised areas if you really want to, and if you're feeling really brave, grab yourself a small detail brush and run some of it around the holes in the wings, or you can see some of the raised lines on some of the sculpts. You can try and drag a line across them. Or you could even just use the detail brush to just run across the edge of the wings. It might actually be easier that way. It's all up to you guys, just giving you options here. Well, that's it for the first one, and if you happen to have got the paint anywhere else during the dry brushing, like on those little arm bits I mentioned earlier that separate the wing membranes, now's your time to go back and tidy it up. I found that because we're using the same paints that the main body has been painted with, you don't tend to see it much with this first one. So getting it everywhere will mostly blend in, but if you have gone, too crazy with it, then by all means go back and tidy it up. And also you can get the contrast back out to top up the recesses if you happen to have got any of the paints into the recessed areas, and then just with the use your small detail brush, you can just dip it in, wipe them off, and then carefully just run it along the edges of where the wings and the membranes are separated. And that does it for the first one. Moving on to the second version. For the second version then, it's mostly the same method, but just with different colours of course. We do start a little differently however. Your first thing you want to do is paint all the wings using the Fang Grey paint. And a similar method to how we applied the contrast on the last one, I find for me what helps quite a lot is to just sort of thin your paints down a little bit, and then just poke the tip of your brush right into that corner and just gently pull the paint down again. And you should get like a nice sort of flat, even finish doing it that way. Might not work for everybody, but I'm just saying that's how I was doing it, as you can see, and yeah, it went on quite nicely. And then once that's dry, grab your Nuln Oil and give it all a wash. Each individual membrane, similar to the starting point of the first method we did with the contrast paint. You just wanted to get it into all the edges and the nooks and crannies. Once that's dry, then the next stage you're going to want to go to is grabbing your rust grey. So again, grab your dry brush, grab your rust grey, and then just dry brush in a similar fashion as before. If you haven't watched the previous one and you jump straight to this one, all we're doing is we're keeping the colour mostly as central as possible, because it's mostly just picking out the highlights and it's just giving the wings a bit of a lighter colour. Again, don't matter too much if you happen to get it onto the model or you happen to get the colour into the recessed areas that we've just washed, because we can pick that all up at the end when we do a little bit of a tidy up phase. But what you are trying to do or trying to go for is, like I said, just get a bit in the centre of the membranes just to give it a bit more colour. For the final part then, like the previous one with the grey, we're just going to do a Fenrisian grey and we're just going to add it to the edges of the wings, and again around any holes or lines or anything like that you might find in the wings. Just a very subtle hint just to give it an extra little pop with the colour and everything. So you can either use your dry brush and just gently drag it across the very edges of the wings, or you can grab a detail brush and then just run your brush along the edges of the wings just to highlight them a little bit. Again, you'll need your detail brush to do any of the holes and lines, but you don't have to do this part, so if you're not feeling that confident, I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's just an added little extra if you want to, of course. And there you have it then. There's two methods you can use that are hopefully fairly easy to do as well. I have to say that the grey one I did was my original one. I thought if we did grey wings to go with the grey bodies and everything, you know, it would sort of keep on trend with the colour scheme. However, I think I'm actually leaning more towards the blue-grey one because I think it just breaks it up a bit nicer. And again, it kind of fits with the theme that, you know, there's a little bit of blue in the paint scheme as well, so a bluey grey. I think I'm actually leaning towards that one more myself. So, but what I think I'm going to do is, because I'm so indecisive, I am probably just going to mix and match them all because, you know, Tyranids, they're bio-organic things, aren't they? They're not completely uniformed. You know, you might spawn one that's got some blue here, one that's got some grey there, etc, etc. So that's my my headcanon anyway, my excuse for just painting how I feel on the day, really. And that does it for another video then. I hope you found this useful, and if you have any other questions or want to drop a comment down below, then please feel free and go for it. Also, if you did enjoy it and you want to help me out a little bit, please consider liking the video. If you've been around YouTube long enough, you know it helps out, so thank you in advance. Until next time, keep collecting everybody, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!